Hello and welcome to the Drop a Stitch podcast.
I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm your other host, Natalie.
And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the market setup. This is the second part of that, I guess. And we're going to talk about how to display your items. Now that we know everything that you need for your setup, the basics, now we're going to tell you what has worked for us to sell more and to display your items in a more attractive way. Appealing way.
So if you are watching on YouTube, you may notice we're wearing the same thing as we were last week because we're actually recording this episode. Mm-hmm. This episode was actually recorded last week, right after we did the other. We're trying to catch up.
We're batching.
Danny's dad is coming to visit, so our time to record podcast will be a little bit more limited.
Yeah.
And I'm also having a baby, so
we're trying to batch and see if we can be ahead of the game.
Yeah, start batching a few episodes so that we can be okay.
We'll try to do that next week too, to see if we can catch up and actually have a few episodes like a couple of weeks ahead.
Yeah, we should.
That would be nice.
That would be.
And the thing with us is that every time that we batch 2 episodes, then the next week it's like, oh, okay, let's just take today off and do something else because we already have an episode, rather than, okay, let's do it again, so then we are ahead of the game for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we should stick to like.
We'll try it. We have to batch now. Your dad is coming.
Yeah.
For like what, 4 weeks?
Yeah.
So we need to be 4 episodes ahead before he comes.
And that would be great.
By the time your dad leaves, I'm pretty much having a baby. Or very close to.
Yeah. Well, he's gonna be here in July. You're due in September, so we still have August.
But mid-August I'm full term.
I know. Oh my God, Natalie!
So I can technically have a baby like a week or 2 after your dad goes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
we definitely should try batching episodes.
Yeah, we should try. So next week we'll probably do another 2 and.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this week's episode will start quicker because we're not going to do our usual how was your week, because I mean, we don't know yet because we haven't lived that week in our real lives.
And we're still working on the same project as last week. I'm working on my squares.
I'm working on my rainbow blanket, turning it into squares.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Let's get into today's episode. Okay, wait. Before we start the episode, I want to mention a few things that we usually mention at the end of the episode, but in case
you don't listen to the whole episode, we're going to get you now.
Why wouldn't you, right? Listen to the whole episode. But first, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account. So if you guys want to support our podcast, we have that in the description of the podcast. So if you want to support, you can buy us a coffee. The link is in the description, and we obviously appreciate everyone that can do that.
Yeah.
And that, and also what else?
We would love to do an episode where we just kind of vent and talked about all the stories. So if you have any stories, if you've lived some frustration, if you have any tea to spill, if you have, anger issue due to a certain situation that happened, whatever the case may be.
If you had a rude customer, if you had a rude somebody that stole your pattern, or something that you did wrong, or whatever you want to tell us, please email us all the tea at
dropastitchpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to read it.
We would love to do an episode reading all the stories, laugh with you guys, tell you our opinions, and it can be completely anonymous. We're not gonna tell your name, we're not gonna say who you are or anything like that, so don't worry. You can just, if you want to email us from like a friend's email, so we're not gonna.
Unless you specifically want us to.
Yeah.
We can mention it.
Unless you specify otherwise, we're not going to mention who you are. So everything is going to be anonymous. So yeah, please tell us all the tea. We want to know. We want to read it.
Anything that frustrates you. What's happening? Michael doesn't have yarn in stock again? Tell us.
Yeah. We want to know everything. Okay. So now that we have those 2 things out of the way, we're going to talk about how to display your items so it's more visually appealing for your customers.
Yes, we brushed on that a little bit last week when we were talking about crates or shelving. One of the main things that you want to do is not have your items laying flat on a table, because that is flat and boring. Yeah. You want to elevate items. You want to draw the eye up. You want to give people's eyes a variety of things to look at. So instead of it being a crowded table with everything laying flat, you want to have crates or shelves or mannequin heads, and you want to have various levels and various levels of product displayed, so that people have things to look at. They're not. It's not a 5-second let me walk across your table. It's more like a few minutes, let me stare around and look at everything that you have, because it's beautifully displayed and it catches my eye and I want to see it all, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, before I go into tip number 2, I just remember one thing that I wanted to say at the beginning, but we're still early in the episode, is that if you want to know the list of all the things that we're mentioning right now, we're going to leave it in the description of the podcast or the video on YouTube, so then you know exactly everything that we are talking about. And if you want, you know, like a quick list, it's going to be down there, but of course you should also listen to the podcast. Yes. Okay, tip number 2 is not too many items on display, and I'm guilty of this because
I think we're all guilty of this
because I think that all my hats are the most beautiful hats ever, and I want to display all of them, and too many things, it's too much information, it's too crowded, it's just too much information for the customer. So while you don't want your table to look empty, you don't want your table or your booth to look crowded. So you have to find a happy middle.
Yes. And there's different ways of doing that. You can have one color scheme and you kind of stick to it, so that even though you have a little bit more items, they all kind of play nicely together. It's not a mismatch of a rainbow of colors and people don't know where to look. You can have similar items together, all your headbands together, all your hats together, all your mittens together, whatever the case may be, so that it's, again, easy for people to understand, like, okay, these are headbands, these are hats, these are, you know, so, and they can look in what interests them rather than try to look at everything. And like we were talking, having in the previous episode, having your tablecloth go to the ground so that you can have storage behind it. This is where that's come handy, because you can put all your extras under. As you sell one item, you can put another one on your table. You don't need to have 25 of the same items. You can have, even if you have 30 colorways, you don't need to have all of them. Put some that look the nicest together, put those together on your table, and then as they sell, just add a little bit more and add a little bit more, and keep your table looking full, because that's another thing. You don't want your table to look too empty either, which is why everyone stresses before markets to finish and create as much stock as possible, because we're all scared of being that one person that runs out of items. But even if you do, I mean, good for you. You had a good market. But you don't want to have too little items. You don't want to have too many items either. There's no right or wrong number.
Find a happy middle.
Yeah. It's experience will kind of tell you. Smaller items, if you have a basket, let's say with scrunchies or pom-poms, like you can have more, like pile them in the basket, it looks cute, it's fine. But if you have a display where they're hanging or something, then you don't want to crowd them and make it hard for people. Like, you know, when you go shopping in these clothing stores and you can't move the clothes on the rack because the hangers are so tight on there.
So annoying.
So frustrating. Don't be that person, you know? Leave a little extra space so people can move things and look through, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Tip number 3 is price tags over signs.
I learned this the hard way, guys.
And we're going to tell you why. Imagine you are a customer. You're walking by the booth and you see a sign that says, hats, $75. What are you going to do?
ooh, that's expensive, I'm going to walk away.
You're probably going to just pass and walk and be like, oh, that's nice, bye. You're not even going to go touch, feel, look at the colors, try it on. You're not going to do anything because it's already out of your budget or it's already for you too expensive. So that's why you should have price tags instead, because then you are telling the customer, if you want to know how much this item is, you need to come, touch the item, see how it looks like, maybe try it on, and then you'll see the price.
Yes, and this is like a marketing tactic. I've noticed it at the first market that I did. I was like, do I look like I have time to put a tag on every single item that I have and write the price on every single item? No. Why? I'm just going to put one sticker at the front. Adult hats, this much. Baby hats, this much. It's going to be super easy, clean, easy peasy, saves me a ton of work. Perfect. And then I did my market. And everybody walked by my booth, looked at the prices, and continued. And no one even looked at the hats. They looked at the prices, and they continued on their way. And I was like, oh, and this is why people have price tags. This is why stores have price tags.
And I told her, guys.
Yeah, she told me, but I didn't have the time to do it. And so I spent the rest of that market putting price tag on my items.
Yeah, I remember you sent me a picture.
Market, because what else was I going to do? No one was coming to my booth. And I did the same market again with price tag, and it's a completely different ball game.
Yeah.
People have to touch items to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
People have to try items on to fall in love with them. People have to get close and kind of look to be able to be attracted to an item and want to buy it. And so if all they see is black on white price tags that they can read from far away, they're not even going to come close. Whereas if it's nicely tucked away on a price tag on your item or on the underside of it or whatever the case may be, they're going to walk up, they're going to look at all the colors, they're going to touch, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is so soft, it's so pretty, wow, like you do such great work. And then they're going to engage with you. Some people like to chat, some people don't. And then you build kind of a little bit of a relationship. They get to touch the item, they build a relationship, and then at some point they flip over the tag. But by that point, you have a lot of chances that these people have now fallen in love with your product. They've talked to you and they've enjoyed their conversation with you. They saw a color that they liked, whatever the case may be. And yes, the price might be a little bit steeper than they expected, but now they're emotionally invested and attached.
Yeah.
And so their reaction is completely different. They might be like, oh, okay, like, it was so nice to meet you, like, such great work, and they may walk away, and that's totally fine. And they may be like, oh my God, like, oh, like some people are like, I'm just going to go do a round and see what else there is, and then I'm probably going to come back, and then like, I can't pass up this hat, and they come back and they buy it, and they make decisions. And so having price tags on every single one of your items instead of signs is the best tip we can give you.
And keep going so you don't...
I was just going to say the exception to that rule is smaller items. If you're having a basket of pom-poms or basket of scrunchies or small items like that, then you can just do like pom-poms, $5, and just put a basket of pom-poms. Like,
or keychains.
Yeah, anything smaller that can be like a stocking stuffer that is not like a sticker shock, like it's on a big price, works. But everything else that is more... that takes more time, that costs more money, because that's what it should be, because you should know your worth.
And also not just for like super expensive items, but this is also like a way for you to tell your customers, please come and touch my items and see them and see the quality and check how beautiful it is and try it on, because you can have items that are $25 and that's okay. But if you want your customer to actually come and touch your items and to see it and to experience, the softness and everything, you need to hide a little bit of the price so they can get closer to your items.
But whatever you do not be that person that doesn't put price tags.
Yes. Please put your price tags.
If I walk to your booth and you do not have price tags, I will look at everything and walk away.
Yeah.
I feel so uncomfortable asking.
Me too.
How much is this item? Because then the person is telling you, so it feels like you being like, okay, I'm just going to put it back. Is like almost like you're passing judgment on them, even though that's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
it kind of feels like you are, because the only conversation you've had with them is, how much is this? Never mind.
Yeah.
So putting price tags avoids that whole uncomfortable situation. Some people might not find. Some people still ask, even though you have a price tag, they may ask. And then you can just tell them, oh, like every item has a price tag. And then you kind of show them where the price is. And then they can continue browsing and look at the prices as they go. And some people do it, like they'll flip the first head and they're like, oh god, that's more expensive, and then they continue and they look at others to see what the prices are, and then they might get to the headbands and be like, oh, these are cheaper, okay, these are my price range, and then they'll look further, right? So not just telling them the price, but also directing the people to the price tag can be helpful. And on those price tag too, writing down what the material is also very practical.
Yeah.
Some people want yarn. They want wool for the wool's properties.
Yeah.
And some of the people are allergic. So having the composition of the yarn that you used written on those price tag is also very helpful.
And also a way for them to contact you.
Yes. Your logo or your business name or your whatever
Instagram,
handle or whatever it
email.
is a great way, because if they leave with an item, then they have a contact form for you. They have a way to reach you.
Yeah.
So that's always a great idea.
For tip number 4, and this goes with the price tags and the signs. This is a little bit of like another tactic that a lot of people use, and we're not gatekeeping here. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to attract those customers. Whenever you have your booth set up and you already know where everything goes, act like your customer, walk by your booth, and when you're walking, what is the first thing that I am looking at in your booth? What is the first thing that when I'm passing by, I'm gonna see? That item that you're putting in that specific spot needs to be not your highest price, because probably that's the first one that people are gonna go. And if they see that it's super expensive, they're gonna walk away. You need to have like a medium price in something pretty, something that you're super proud of, or something that you think it's gonna sell really good. That's what you need to put in that part. And I'm gonna tell you, in one market, I had it was a 10 by 10, and I made it like a walk-in booth. So I had my table in the back, and then I had a shelving unit on the side so people can walk in, and I had a rack on the other side. So then people could see and come in the booth and see around. So whenever people were walking by my booth, the first thing that you're gonna see is the end of the shelving unit, right? So in that end, I put my Fair Isle beanies because they are affordable, they're pretty, they're super, eye-catching, and I sold you guys pretty much, if not all, of the Fair Isle beanies. And then that's when I learned that, okay, this is what the people are looking at, the first thing they're seeing. So then I started playing around and seeing, okay, what if I put headbands in here now? And I played around and I put headbands, and then I was selling all the headbands. And that is just because that's the first thing the customer is going to see. And that first item should not be your more expensive item. Because if they pass by, like I said, they're probably just going to be like, oh, probably everything is this high.
Yeah.
So they're just going to walk by. So you need to be aware of where you're displaying your things, displaying your items. You need to know and always think as like the customer.
Yeah. And this may vary from one market to another. If you have your setup for a 10 by 10, and you're in the center of a row in between two other makers, the viewpoint that your customers are going to have is going to be different than if you're in the corner of a booth and then you have a little bit more of an area.
Yeah.
So it's not like a one size fits all. If you figured it out for one position in the market, it may not be the same answer for any other position. So that's something to keep in mind. Always try to like think through, walk in front, what do you see?
Yeah.
And play with that, because that's a great tip. And like I've seen Danny do it. Danny has put one of the markets that I went to that to help you, she had her merino wool headbands. So they're the higher price collection. They're super pretty and luxurious. You want to touch them when you see them. And so she put those at the end, but they're not the most expensive. They're kind of reasonably priced considering they're headbands and not hats. And the amount of people that stopped and got headbands that day, yeah. I feel like it was the year of the headband to start with. Yeah. But it was also, like, Danny was literally making headbands as she was selling them. Yeah. Literally. As soon as she finished one, she would put it on the table and it would leave. And then another. And all day long. She just made headbands nonstop that day because they were just selling like hotcakes. Mm-hmm. And so it's something to think about and to play around with. And there's not one size fits all answers. It depends on your product. It depends on your display. It depends on so many things. But it's something to keep in mind that whatever draws the customer in, it tends to be what they buy.
Yeah, and get to your market a little bit early so that you have your setup and you can walk around and act like you're a customer. Go from both sides, because people can come from either ways. Yes. and see what you see first, and like try to act like your customer and see where you're drawn your attention to. Maybe if you have like a very bright color item, you can put it first too, so that draws the attention too. You can play around and get to your market a little bit early, so you can do that too. Then tip number 5 is,
which I've kind of already mentioned.
Yeah.
You can do a color theme.
Yeah, you mentioned that too.
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit earlier when we were talking about not too many items. It kind of ties it all in together. Mm-hmm. But there's different ways to go about it. You can do color themes. You can have like very specific brand colors, and those are the only colors that you use. Or you can try to like put the same kind of tones or whatever the case may be. You can play around with it, or you can go with the styles. If you are, if you have 2 styles of hats, then you can have those 2 styles side by sides with whatever colors you have. Mm-hmm. And then you have a headband, and then you have like, so depending on what you're making and where you are, there's different ways to make it cohesive without just being all the same color. Because it's fun if you start doing market prep. It's kind of where you kind of get to go out of your comfort zone and use different colors that you wouldn't necessarily use for yourself, but that you enjoy making items out of, even though it's not for you. And so playing around with colors and styles can be fun.
And for example, what I do is I have one table for all my merino wool stuff, and then I have the other table where I have the acrylic blend, and that it's easier for me to tell customers when they come to one side of my table and they see all merino wool and super expensive, and I say, well, I have on this other side more affordable items that are made with acrylic blend. And so they go there and they check, because some people just don't have the same budget, and
that's okay.
And having the options, it's good. So then it's easier for me to send the customers over to that side of the booth, rather than having all mixed and be like, oh no, this is merino wool, but no, this other one it's not. So like, it's so much easier whenever everything is on one side. It's so much easier for you because it's more organized, and it's easier to send your customer over there. You are not going to be overwhelmed. And also for your customer too. I think I said customer like 5 times in one sentence, but
it's okay. Today is my day of whatever the case may be.
So I hope these tips were helpful for you guys. These are the things that have worked for us all the time, and things that we have learned too with time. These tips are definitely things that I do on every single market. I cannot stress enough about the acting like your customers and see what you see first in your booth, because that's gonna make or break your sales.
that. Yeah, for sure. And the price tags. I think those two
Yeah,
are
and
the
the
two
price
biggest
tags too.
ones. The price tags are so big.
Yeah.
And you might find others as you do your markets. You know, the first few ones you're so like overwhelmed and trying to set everything up that
Yeah.
you don't have the time to sit and absorb. But as you do a few more, like you get to find your groove and you get to start kind of absorbing and paying attention to how people act when they're in your booth. Where do they look? What do they touch? How do they? And then if you pay attention to that over and over and over again, you'll notice trends. You'll notice everyone is drawn to a certain item. You'll notice everyone. And so you can kind of pick up and play around. And that's how like the best marketing strategies were created is as humans, we're very predictable.
Yeah.
As annoying as that is, if you've ever worked in any, like I worked for a company and no matter how many signs we put anywhere, people went where people went.
Yeah.
And so we had to adapt the buildings and we had to adapt the way the things were done to where people instinctually went. And so if you pay attention to that, you can actually do yourself a pretty great favor and put the items in the proper place to sell better.
Yep.
And so, yeah, just start with these few tips, and then when you have a time and when you have the chance, just pay attention. You'll learn a lot.
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. This was a little bit short. I mean, not a little bit short. It was shorter than the other ones, which
Because we didn't do our 10-12 minutes of blabbing on about our weeks. Yeah. That's why.
I'm sorry if you like hearing about that and we didn't give you that this episode.
You'll get some next episode.
Next time, yeah. So yeah, if you enjoyed, please give these podcasts 5-star reviews on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere where you listen to a podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hi. Please leave us a comment, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And if you have any stories, questions, or whatever you want to tell us, like we were saying at the beginning of the episode, please email us at
dropastitchpodcast@gmail.com.
And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.
Yes, we'll talk
Well,
to you
it's just the
next
beginning
week.
of the week. So I hope you guys have a really good week.
Yeah, well,
It's gonna be Monday for them, so
no, it's gonna be Wednesday because our podcast is
oh
Wednesday.
Jesus. Okay, have a rest.
Have a great
rest of your week, everyone.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.